Hello, travelers. Welcome to Fulbright Week at Reach the World. For over 20 years, Reach the World has used virtual exchange to inspire youth to become curious, confident, and compassionate global citizens. This week, we are proud to celebrate our long-standing partnership with the Fulbright program. Fulbright travelers work tirelessly to foster mutual understanding between the people of the United States and other nations. Under normal circumstances, Fulbright travelers share their experiences abroad with K-12 students in the US through Reach the World virtual exchanges and school visits. This week, we are bringing their stories and the world into your homes. You can find a complete listing of Fulbright Week livestream events and much more at athome.reachtheworld.org. Today, we are happy to welcome Pandora White. Despite feeling like studying abroad was not an option during her childhood, Pandora has taken a remarkable journey toward global citizenship. Since earning a Gilman scholarship to study abroad in Ghana during college, Pandora has traveled to 33 countries and counting and has earned a Fulbright scholarship and a PhD in biochemistry. Now she is an alumni ambassador for Fulbright, and she's excited to share her stories with you. To our live stream viewers, please use the YouTube chat bar to let us know you're here and also to share any questions you have for Pandora. We'll get to as many questions as we can. Without further delay, welcome to Reach the World, Pandora.
Hey, Colin. Nice to meet you and nice to see everybody here. So I'm going to try to get started. So, have a few slides for now. All right, so as Colin said, I have been to 33 countries and it was a journey. It took a while. So here's some pictures of some of my recent travels. But it all began when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I really loved reading. And I like these stories that told me about life in other countries or about people who grew up completely different from me. And so I always had this question, like, is it really like that? What's it like in another part of the world? But for me, I never thought that I could actually do it, that I could actually go abroad. And so here were my barriers. So for me, I was a first generation student. And that means that your parents didn't go to college. And so for me, my parents didn't go to college, and some of my grandparents didn't know how to read or write. And so just going to college was enough for a while. It felt that that was doing more than anyone had done before, and that was all I needed to do. The second thing was I was a low income student. And so I would read the booklets about applying for college, for study abroad and see the price on them. And I felt that I would never in a million years be able to afford to do that. The third reason I came up was I was a chemistry major. And I never saw a chemistry major study abroad. For me, I only saw art majors or history or biology majors, but I never met a chemistry major. And I think that last reason was I had never known anyone who traveled. And so these pictures on this slide are from my hometown. I'm from Mississippi, and I'm from a very small town there. And in normal life, I never met anyone who had went to another country, flew, tried to live, and restart their life. And so all of these together made me feel that I couldn't do it, that it wasn't for me. And I one day something changed. At the university I went to, Alcorn State University, they had this program that somebody told me, and it was to study Chinese. And as part of this program, you would get a scholarship of $1,500. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted money. And so I also was interested in different cultures. And so learning this language and getting paid to do it was the way I felt that I could do it. But because I sat in this office all the time, I was surrounded by students who either went to study abroad, thought about studying abroad, or were from different countries. And so everybody started asking me, when was I going to study abroad? When was I going to do it? And I came up with that list again. I don't have money. I don't have time. I'm a double major, biology and chemistry. I don't it wouldn't fit into my plan. And at that time when I was doing this, I was a junior in college. And so I was like, I just need to graduate. I just need a job and I just need to focus on that. And because everyone in the office was my friend, they got rid of every barrier for me. They were like, oh, you don't have money. Well, whatever financial aid you get here, you can apply it to studying in another country. You think you need more money? There's a scholarship for that. And that scholarship is called the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship. And the Gilman Scholarship is specifically for students who don't have money, all right, who the low income students. And then I was like, well, I'm a chemistry major. It's a little late. They're like, as long as you do it this semester, it's okay. And I was just like, And so what happened was one of my friends was Ghanaian, and he kept asking me, why don't you come to my country? Why don't you look into the classes here? And I just was like, no, I don't know. And I just kept questioning it. And then eventually we looked up the classes, and every class that I need to graduate was offered at the University of Ghana. Um, and so here's the logo for the Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship. And here's Ghana. It's a country in sub-Saharan Africa. And so I won the scholarship and I went to Ghana. And so here's some pictures from my daily life. This was from Thanksgiving, a trip my friends and I went on up into the mountains and just some food. And so all of that, I really loved it. And it really helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So while in Ghana, something interesting happened. In Ghana, there is malaria. And for all of us who went to Ghana, we all got the information about how to get anti malaria medicine, how to not get malaria. And while I was there, my next door neighbor was sick for a very long time. And I asked the roommate and I said, what's wrong with her? And she said, oh, she has malaria. And I was like, what? At the time, I didn't know what malaria was. And so seeing someone sick for over an extended period of time was just startling. And then I found out later, one of my friends that was from Ghana was looking very tired. And I asked him, I said, what's wrong? And he said, oh, I just got a little bit of malaria. And I was like, wait, you got malaria? Because for me, I just thought that, if you lived in that environment forever, you would know how not to get malaria, or you would have medicine that would stop you from getting malaria. And so that got me thinking about global health. That got me thinking about some things that we take for granted and how that affects a lot of people. Now, after my time in Ghana, I went back to America and I graduated with my bachelor's in biochemistry. And I went on to do an internship in India. And while in India, I got a chance to see a lot of places. I was mostly based out of Bangalore. And while there, I was doing my internship at a hospital. And at the hospital, we was looking at something called antibacterial resistant uh, bacteria. So these bacteria, you can't really treat them with normal antibiotics. They're more hard to treat. And so while I was there, there was a workshop where they brought in medical doctors and nurses and scientists, and they had this conversation where they wondered, like, how did this happen? Why is it in the hospital? How many hospitals does it happen in? And I found out that this wasn't a problem that happened in India. It was a problem that happened everywhere around the world. And so I wanted to look into figuring out how could I do things on this global field. And so from my time in India and my time in Ghana, I decided that I wanted to go into something dealing with medicine that affected the world. Now, after my internship in India, literally 2 weeks later, I moved down to Alabama to get my PhD in biochemistry. And while I was there, I met a very interesting person. And for me, again, I had been bitten by this travel bug. I wanted to see the world, I wanted to see what I could do. But I was a PhD student in chemistry. And for me, again, chemists at that for me and my thought, I thought that chemists, we stay in the lab. And so I figured that I would be just working in my lab. And I met a Nigerian who was studying in America, and he told me that you could do your research anywhere in the world. And he had did his research, part of it in Nigeria, part in Mexico, and then a part of it here in America. And I thought to myself, well, maybe that would be possible. So that was the first obstacle. The second thing was I didn't think that chemistry and global health went together. I thought those were two completely different fields and that um, I didn't know how to make them go together. And the last thing was I didn't have any money or time to just take off a year and go someplace else. And I think a few weeks later, I was still thinking about all these issues. And I got an email about an information session for Fulbright. Now, Fulbright is a scholarship program that you can do for a year, well, up to a year, in another country. And they pay you. They pay you to do it. They pay for your flights and they give you health insurance and they take care of you. And so I thought about going, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. So I asked around for Fulbright as a student. As a student researcher, you need a letter from somebody in another country. So I went to person and I said, "Do you know anybody who does diabetes research in another country?" And finally, I met a professor, and he was in Poland, so in Europe this time, and he agreed to be my mentor. And I went there to study diabetes. Here's some pictures from Poland. And while I was in Poland, I found out that I just thought everything was very interesting. So for me, I was studying type 2 diabetes, which affects the entire world. I was working with a professor in Poland, and the drug that we were creating was coming from a plant in Asia. And so all of this together got me to thinking that maybe I could find a way to put my chemistry, my health focus, and my ideal to study abroad all together. So once I finished in Poland, I went back to America and I finished my PhD program, and it was kind of cool because at that time when I started my PhD program, there had never been an African American female to go and finish, and so I became one of a handful to actually finish the program in history. And after this, I reached out for a fellowship program, and I got it, and I moved down to Peru down in South America. And so here's some pictures from me just walking around and eating local Peruvian food and hanging out with my friends. And so I'm down in Peru doing cancer research. Um, and it's been amazing. And so now I think because of that first experience, that Gilman, that Fulbright, I really know, what I want to move into. Now, right now, I am currently working from home because of COVID-19. So while I was in Peru, I decided to go home for a holiday and I was visiting my family and I started getting emails. And the emails were about COVID and nobody really knew what it was. And so the emails started progressively becoming more if you want to go home to the States, you can go home to the States. And so for me, I was already here, so I made the decision to stay. But it was a very stressful time. But I think my organization and all the other organizations handled it very well. They moved quickly and made sure everybody got back home. I think that's everything I have. Oh, wait, I got one more thing. So my last words are just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. So for me, that was going abroad. Like no one in my family had ever been on a plane. So the ideal of my first plane ride, I'm going to another country, it was kind of a shocker, but it happened and it was a great experience. Or I went on to get my PhD in chemistry, and at that time, nobody like me had ever did it. So if you want to study abroad, if you want to do it in undergraduate and you don't have that much money, look into the Gilman scholarship. If you graduate, you get your bachelor's and you want to do something, you look into the Fulbright. All right, and I think we can do questions now.
Thank you so much for sharing such an inspiring story with us, Pandora. I just want to repeat something that Pandora said to our younger viewers in the audience, that we definitely at Reach the World encourage you to check out the Benjamin A. Gilman and Fulbright scholarships. These are great opportunities to experience the world and begin your journey towards global citizenship, much like Pandora has. So we have a great live stream audience today, and I want to make sure that we have time for their questions. The first question is from Frenesy, and she would like to know if you're a doctor.
Yes. I have my PhD in chemistry, so you call me doctor.
And can you elaborate a little bit on what your role is in the medical field and the difference between a doctor in chemistry and between a medical doctor?
So medical doctors are the people who give you drugs or they test you for diseases, and so that's like your family doctor. But a doctor in chemistry means that you have studied chemistry for a very long time. And so for us, we can work in designing new drugs or designing the treatments, but we don't actually work on people or work with people like that.
Thank you. And so I want to take this time to encourage people from our live stream audience to answer questions in the chat bar. And I was wondering, Pandora, can you talk a little bit about how you managed to visit 33 different countries? As from your story, we know you've lived in at least 4 countries, including the US, and you were clearly able to visit several more.
So when I went to Ghana the first time I studied abroad, I felt that that was it. That was my goal. My goal was to go abroad, and that was it. And when I got there, I realized that people had other plans. Some people went to neighboring countries, and that thought had never occurred to me. And so after that, I decided that if I ever get in a position where I'm studying in one country, I would try to make it my mission to go see other countries. And so, for example, when I lived in Poland, I was there for a year. And so I had a chance to visit a lot of European countries like that. And like right now, I was based in Peru and I got a chance to fly over to Brazil or Chile. So I try to make sure that in my schedule that I do work hard, but I try to make sure I fit in a vacation either somewhere new. So if I'm in America, I might try to go visit New York City if I've never seen that, or Miami. But if I'm in another country, I try to go visit other countries around it.
Very cool. And I'm gonna look. We have a question coming in from our website. I'm just gonna relay you this question. Do you have a favorite food that you've tried throughout your travels?
Do I have a favorite? Okay, my favorite food. Uh, that's. I'm gonna say I really like curry, like blanket curry. So it can be Jamaican style curry, or Indian style, or Japanese. I really just like curries.
Cool. Do you have a favorite place where you had curry, or just any curry overall?
I think. Well, one of my favorite or most interesting curry experiences was I had went to London and I had already been to India, so I had like really authentic Indian curry, and I had went to this restaurant in London to get it, and it was not good at all. And I was just like, what is wrong with it? And the cook saw me like looking at the menu like that, and uh, he didn't really speak the same language I did, and so he went in the kitchen and came back with like the curry sauce, like the more authentic, and like redid it for me. I was like, thank you so much.
Wow. The amazing thing about that is that if you hadn't had experiences in so many other countries with more authentic curry, you may not have even known. So we have another question from our chat bar. Jim would like to know, you have worked on projects related to diabetes and cancer in 2 different countries. And Jim was wondering if these projects came from personal interests or if they came more from just existing projects that were already going on when you moved to those countries.
So for me, so when you go to do your PhD, you don't create your own project. So you come in and you pick up a mentor and you try to work with them. And so I picked a mentor that was focused on health related issues. And one of his biggest things was type 2 diabetes. So for me, I eventually developed my own projects related to diabetes, but it was his topic. So that's how it happened.
Thank you. We have another question from our chat bar on YouTube, and it is from Tony. He would like to know, what is the one piece of advice you would give to get more students to study chemistry?
I think for chemistry, what I would say is that chemistry isn't hard. I think you have to figure out what you like because chemistry can apply to everything in the world, from medicine to cell phones to everything is chemistry. So I think sometimes when people study chemistry, they are under the idea that they will be horrible at it because your big brother told you that, oh, I did horrible at chemistry, or your dad was like, when I was in school, chemistry was horrible. So you come in and you already think it's horrible. So if you do bad at it, you're like, everybody does bad at it. And that's not true. The thing is, you just have to work at it, and chemistry makes you think differently from other classes.
Thank you. I wish I'd heard that advice sooner because I know that I have my own struggles with chemistry. So we have another question from the website. We've heard a lot about the different challenges that you overcame to eventually study abroad and then go on to do research in different countries and get a PhD in biochemistry. And we have a question from our website. This person in the audience would like to know, what is the biggest challenge that you overcame to get to where you are today?
The biggest challenge, ooh, it's like all of those was challenges. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges was probably not giving up when it got hard. So sometimes I was like, oh my goodness, why am I even doing this? Is this even what I want to do with my life? Like, I could totally make so much money doing something else right now. And so whenever I got those kind of feelings, I would call my mom and she would tell me, like, you've been wanting to do this your whole life. Like, I mean, you can quit if you want to. And so a lot of times I would have to take a step back if it got to that and think about what is it about that day that made it feel like I couldn't do it. And then I just figure out how to just maybe take a break that day and come back to it. And I think having that, for us, we hear that getting a PhD is like running a marathon. And so you have to be able to take those breaks when you need it and just keep going.
Very inspiring advice. Thank you, Pandora. I hope that some people in our audience are inspired to follow their dreams in very much the same way that Pandora has. We have one more question from our website. What country did you find to be most surprising in your travels?
What country? I would say, just off the top of my head, Lithuania. I didn't even know that country existed before I bought a plane, bus ticket there. And so when I got there, I didn't know what to expect. I literally know no one who had ever been to Lithuania or knew where it was. And so I get off the bus and I see like the capital, and I had an amazing time. And I didn't know what the food was, and I think for me, a lot of times I have experiences like that, and maybe for some of the viewers, sometimes you don't know what to expect, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be horrible. You just need to try to embrace everything that's there.
Thank you. And Lithuania, can you tell us a little bit about where Lithuania is located and what you found there for our viewers who don't know much about it?
Lithuania is in the Baltics, is in the northern part of Europe, is in the eastern region. And to the north of Lithuania, you have places like Finland and Norway and Sweden. So it's in that region. And so it was a very small capital city. Um, and I think in that city, you know, I had like potato pancakes and went to the market and just looked at the art and the different um, foods. I went to the food market, and I think I also had a chance to really see that meeting point between some of the European. So it was like one of the first countries I went to where people actually spoke Russian. So I think that was kind of different. Like everybody else spoke like whatever, like in Poland it was Polish, in Germany it was German, and then in Lithuania it's like some of us speak Russian. Okay.
Very interesting. And did you have the chance to learn or pick up any other languages during your time abroad?
So one of my really one of my problems I think was when you go abroad, especially in science, English is the national language for science. So for research purposes, it wasn't a problem not to speak another language. But it would eat at me that I didn't know. And so when I made this trip to Peru, I made the conscious decision to sign up at the language school and go learn Spanish every day. So I'm not fluent, pero mi español es okay.
Very cool. Exciting. And it's really, really impressive that you're still seeking out new experiences, trying to learn languages. And now I'd imagine that you have had already been to so many countries by the time you arrived in Peru. So we have time for one or two more questions. We have another question coming in from our website, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
All right. To my younger self, and I think I read this to myself a lot. I like wrote it down. Um, yeah, you miss all the shots that you never take. And so if you take yourself out of the game, if you don't apply, if you don't try, then you won't get it. That's the truth. But sometimes you will make it. You will get that scholarship. You will. So for me, especially when I was in high school and I was thinking about going to college and I knew I didn't have any money, I applied to every scholarship that crossed my lap. Everything. I had my Fast Web account. I applied to Burger King, Walmart, everything. And amazingly, some things I didn't get and some things I did. And so I feel that you should try. That's the thing. Just try.
Great advice to, especially to our K-12 students out there in the audience. I have one last question for you, which is, when quarantine is over, when things return to normal from reality as we know it during COVID-19, what is your next adventure?
My next adventure is right now, I'm thinking about just going back to Peru, finishing my research. And then hopefully I will get to the point where I can start my own research project. So I'm looking into some things in Pakistan and Peru right now.
Very cool. That's really exciting. And thank you for sharing that with us. I really hope that you get to go back to Peru sooner rather than later. Thank you so much, Pandora. And thanks to our audience for joining today. We really appreciated you sharing your global journey and hopefully inspiring many of us to take our own global adventures and seek out new opportunities. We are going to be broadcasting all week long, and featuring exciting Fulbright, Fulbright travelers and recipients of the Fulbright Award. Join us tomorrow as we connect with Fulbright alumna Lauren Peace. She'll be talking about her experience in Kosovo. We'll also be featuring Sofiane Essarawi from Morocco. She is a Fulbright foreign language teaching assistant here in the US who has returned to her native Morocco. We are also featuring Fulbright foreign language teaching assistant Medina Mahat, who will be talking about culture and cuisine in her native Kenya. You can see this entire lineup of Fulbright guests. You can find all of their events on athome.reachtheworld.org/events. See you all next time. Thank you and goodbye.